Mangwana ni mwalelepo vukenjani keklas vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Betty and Aina Raiza Kweyo. How was your weekend, Aina?
My weekend was great. Happy brand new week, everyone. Now, in our show this morning, SA warns against attempt to overthrow government. Malawi fears storm Freddy could make the deadliest cholera outbreak worse, and schools in Tigray are finally reopening after 3 years. We also have Talent Gore with us to bring us news from the House of Stone. Stay with us for more news coming up on Africa Good Morning. In our top stories this morning, SA warns against attempts to overthrow the government. South African police have said that the planned opposition protests on Monday are not a mere shutdown but an attempt to overthrow the government. The opposition party Economic Freedom Fighters is organizing nationwide marches to protest against the country's power crisis and has called on President Cyril Ramaphosa to resign. This is an attempt to overthrow the government. This is not a shutdown, it's an anarchy, KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi said on Friday while briefing the media on security plans to deal with threats posed by the protest. The magnitude of threats differs from the planned shutdowns, and that is why we have to be extra vigilant, he said, while being quoted by local media.
All right, now, despite her fears, Finance Afiki joined other women drawing dirty water from a well in Malawi's second biggest city, Blantyre, which is still reeling from the devastation caused by Cyclone Freddy. I am fearful of cholera, but there is no potable water and I have no option. I don't have money, she told Reuters on Friday in Blantyre's in Dirande Township. Malawi seemed to be getting its deadliest cholera outbreak yet under control, with World Health Organization figures showing a decline in cases and deaths. But locals and health experts worry that trend could quickly reverse in Freddy's wake. One of the strongest and deadliest storms ever in Africa, the storm has killed over 320 people in Malawi alone, with heavy rains, floods and mudslides making access to clean drinking water impossible for many. Cholera spreads through contaminated water and food. Many people have mild symptoms, but it can kill within hours if untreated. Now, WHO officials say the best that countries like Malawi can do is stretch their meager resources and try to contain outbreaks as they emerge.
Now, Tigray schools are to reopen after 3 years. A plan to reopen schools in Ethiopia's northern region of Tigray has begun 3 years after they were forced to close after conflict broke out between Tigray People's Liberation Front and the central government. During the civil war, many schools were looted and destroyed. In 2021, Human Rights Watch reported that a quarter of all schools in Tigray had been damaged during the war. Teachers have also not been paid for over 2 years. They are looking for a mid-April start date, but that is not yet been endorsed. UNICEF Chief Education James Brigg told BBC Focus on Africa Radio about the plans to reopen the schools. The whole of the education system in Tigray has collapsed. Since January of last year, we have 2.3 million children out of school, he added.
Now, health officials in Burundi and the Democratic Republic of Congo have detected cases of vaccine-derived poliovirus. The World Health Organization and the Global Polio Eradication Initiative has said. Now, the WHO said the Burundian government had declared the detection of the virus a national public health emergency after cases were confirmed in an unvaccinated 4-year-old boy in Isale district in western Burundi and 2 other children who were his contacts. Now, circulating poliovirus type 2 is different to wild poliovirus, with infections occurring when a weakened strain of poliovirus contained in the oral polio vaccine circulates among under-immunized populations for long periods. The detections are significant as they are the first linked with the use of a new vaccine, the novel oral poliomyelitis vaccine type 2, which was developed specifically to reduce this risk. The Global Polio Eradication Initiative said in a statement that circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus type 2 was found in 6 children in DRC's eastern Tanganyika and South Kivu provinces.
In our next story, Botswana minister denies Ian Khama arrest warrant. Botswana's foreign minister Lamagang Kwape has denied that an arrest warrant has been issued for former President Ian Khama, who is living in exile in South Africa. After being pressed on the issue by Sophie Inkenye from BBC's Focus on Africa program, he said, "We will have to engage the Ministry of Justice to find out the status of any arrest warrant, if any." In December, it was widely reported that a court in Botswana had issued an arrest warrant against Mr. Khama on the charges of possessing illegal firearms. The 69-year-old former leader has denied the charges and said they were part of a political conspiracy after he fell out with his successor, President Mokgweetsi Masisi.
Now, Egypt and Ethiopia have once again locked horns in a fresh row over the latter's massive dam project, Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, which is being built in the main tributary of the Nile River. Now, the new development comes after Cairo issued a fresh warning saying that all options are on the table to deal with any threats to its water supply posed by the Ethiopian megadam. Now, such a threat constitutes a flagrant breach of United Nations. This also stands as a clear violation of the agreement on the Declaration of Principles. Now, Egypt must stop its callous and unlawful renouncements, the statement added in response to Egypt renouncing. Now, Ethiopia called upon all concerned actors to take note of what it described as Egypt's flagrant violation of principles of international relations. That brings us to the end of our top stories on Africa. Good morning. Now, the Zimbabwean government is about to kickstart hearings on the death penalty. More on that as we talk to Talent Gore after the break.
Indeed, in June 2004, in my capacity as the head of state, I launched Namibia Vision 2030 and emphasized the need to be clear about where we are, where we wanted to go, and over what time frame. Thus, this vision is still valid and achievable in the remaining 7 years if we work hard and remain united as I believe that a people united striving to achieve a common good for all members of the society will always emerge victorious.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. We now cross over to the House of Stone, Zimbabwe, as we talk to the one and only Talent Gore. Talent Wamukase. Now, ZEC extends mobile voter registration ahead of the 2023 general elections. Could you please get into that?
The Central Commission has extended the special mobile voter registration by another 5 days from this Wednesday up until Sunday. Apparently, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission has said it is not to mobilize as much people there as there are technical problems. The commission says as a result of power supply. ZEC has been facing mobile registration delays because of bad weather characterized overcast conditions. The voter registration funded that everyone who is 18 and above should come and register and vote since cabinet over the extension of the special exercise and said that it will give passage for the registration of more votes.
All right, now, Talent, we understand that the government has kick-started public hearings on the death penalty. Tell us about this.
Yes, apparently consultations to abolish or bring back the death penalty have begun with the Ministry of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs now gathering public views on the issue. Speaking during a training workshop in Harare on Monday, senior legal officer in the Ministry of Justice said Senate was on to bring the death or to abolish is being headed by the Ministry of Justice to gather views from the public in order to come up with a position. So sometime last year, a high-key stakeholder consultative forum agreed to go on a nationwide consultations to get views from the general public. The Constitution of Zimbabwe talks about the death penalty. The Constitution of Zimbabwe, section 48, talks about the death penalty. So now the ministry has to gather views from the public to hear what they have, whether they want the death penalty to be abolished or they want it to be brought back. So now they have actually begun the consultation.
All right. Now, 14 school pupils have been injured after their school collapsed. Could you please get into that?
Yes, on Thursday, a school collapsed into a mine shaft, and 14 pupils were injured. Apparently, Kwekwe is a mining town, and people in that area are saying that we are very much scared of our lives because this is not the first time that this has happened. It has happened before, and now students have been injured. So for now, that and also the learning process at that school has been suspended, and some of the students they were told to go into the schools and the civil protection unit talk to other schools to ensure that some of the students they can actually learn at other schools, and the civil protection unit has also asked for tents and toilets from the Red Cross Society to ensure that some of the students will learn as alternatives.
All right. Thank you very much, Talent, for bringing us the news stories from Zimbabwe.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's have a look at the weather predictions for today for Southern Africa. In our economic news this morning, Ghana and Zambia's debt restructuring going in diverging directions. Debt restructuring programs in Ghana and Zambia are going in diverging directions due to Zambia's large exposure to Chinese lenders and its weaker ability to cope with a large amount of debt. Investment Bank Citi said on Friday, Ghana was likely to get an International Monetary Fund board sign-off for a $3 billion rescue loan in the next few weeks, while Zambia's restructuring had stalled. Citi analysts said in a note to clients, Ghana defaulted on its external debts in December and has since sealed a domestic debt swap and requested a restructuring of its bilateral debts via the G20 Common Framework vehicle. Now, Zambia has been stuck in default since it became the first COVID-era African nation to do so in November 2020.
All right, now the Tanzania Bureau of Standards yesterday advised hotel owners in the country to ensure that they are recognized for providing excellent customer service to attract more tourists to the country and boost the economy. This was stated by TBS Director of Quality Management, Mr. Lazaro Sasalanga, during a ceremony to provide the Hyatt Regency Dar es Salaam with an International Safe Food Service certificate. Mr. Sasalanga said the presence of many hotels with quality certifications is important in expanding the tax base. That brings us to the end of our economic news stories. Economic indicators up next, just before we get into sports.
I think Namco is changing the game.
The service at Namco is amazing.
Fast and friendly.
Always ready to cater to you.
Use them often when we do our trips.
Namco is the one.
Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. Heading into the sport, it was a beautiful, beautiful weekend, especially if you're wise enough to support Arsenal. Why? Because they won 4-1 yesterday, making sure that Crystal Palace was put in place after their very unfair firing of Patrick Vieira. Arsenal did the best that they could, and apparently the best is still good enough to be 8 points clear at the top. However, for Manchester United, they needed the other team to have 3 red cards. Bruno Fernandes scored twice to put Manchester United into the FA Cup semi-finals with a drama-filled 3-1 win over Fulham, who had 2 players manager Marco Silva sent off on Sunday. So 2 players and a manager. Fulham appeared to be heading for their first FA Cup semi-final appearance since 2002. Now, this is when Alexander Mitrovic opened the scoring in the 50th minute. But Erik ten Hag's team roared back with a vengeance, while the Cottagers unraveled in a frenzied stretch midway through the second half that started with Williams' red card for a handball after a VAR review.
Now joining Arsenal in doing the victory dance, Perez wins in Jeddah as Verstappen goes from 15th to 2nd. Sergio Perez won the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix from a pole position in a Red Bull 1-2 on Sunday, with Max Verstappen staying atop of the championship after racing from the 15th to 2nd with the fastest lap. A double Formula One world champion Verstappen snatched the bonus point from Perez with a last lap blast around Jeddah's flood-lit Conch Street circuit that left him a point clear of the Mexican. The result was Red Bull's second 1-2 in as many races this season, but a reverse of the fifth of the March 5 opener in Bahrain.
All right, now Ireland completed their fourth Six Nations Grand Slam with a 29-16 victory over England at a pulsating Aviva Stadium on Saturday, emphatically underlining their status as the world's top-ranked team heading into September's World Cup. The script could not have been better prepared. A chance to seal a first Grand Slam in Dublin on St. Patrick's Day weekend, and Ireland delivered, although it was nervier than they would have liked against an England side reduced to 14 men for the entire second half. England were within 1 point of an upset with 20 minutes to go, but late tries from Robbie Henshaw, Rob Herring, and a second for man of the match Dan Sheehan made sure of Ireland's 15th championship and 5th since 2009. You couldn't make it up. It was like living in a dream. We didn't play our best, but what a team. What a group of coaches. Ireland's captain Johnny Sexton, playing in his final Six Nations game, said in a pitchside interview. Kudos to Ireland on that win. That brings us to the end of our sports stories on Africa Good Morning. After the break, we'll get into the highlights.
I usually don't drive this car around. It's a standing base. I fill up my car for 850, which that gave me a full tank. I used to use this car between Rebot and Windhoek. Yeah, once you reach home in Rebot, it's almost a half tank. It's from Windhoek to Ketmas. That is the longest I have driven with this baby. I think Namco is changing the game because their service is very organized, clean. Even their takeaway department, Namco is the one. There is no country like Namibia. Namibia is a very beautiful country. That's why I'm part of it.
NMH at 1 brings you news from all across Namibia. If you would like to feature your brand or campaign on this platform, contact NMH1 at synergy.com.na. NMH at 1, your lunchtime news companion.
I usually fill up about 2 tanks a week. A tank of fuel costs me about 140 to 150 Namibian dollars. I was very fortunate that a couple of my friends and I went to Tsumeb for the day, slept over, and then we rode back the next day. I found the service at the Namco service stations to be quite fast and friendly, which is really nice, especially when we're on the open road and we want to get to our next destination. What makes me proud Namibian is the fact that we've got all these lovely wide open spaces. And although we are from all different backgrounds, we can all get together and we can have a great time.
Namibië sonder grense vertel weekliks die stories van Namibiërs wat oor see of elders in die buiteland werk. Die program nooi jou om saam te reis na nuwe bestemmings en meer oor ons mense, hul lewens, talente, sienswyse en Namibië se trotste wêreldwye voetspoor te leer. Volg Namibië sonder grense op Netwerk TV, NTV, Oneuptwo.com en Republikeinse Facebookblad. Namibië sonder grense handel oor uitreik, gesels, reis en wenke en soms toer ons na besienswaardighede in die land waar ons kuier. Kontak grense@synergy.com.na en vertel ons van Namibiërs wat jy oor see ken of om jou reisprodukte te adverteer. Namibië sonder grense, ons land oral in die wêreld.
Thank you for staying with Africa Good Morning. Let's head into the highlights from this morning's broadcast. South Africa warns against attempts to overthrow government. Malawians fear Storm Freddy could make deadliest cholera outbreak worse. Tigray schools to reopen after 3 years. Ghana and Zambia's debt restructurings going in diverging directions. Those have been our stories.
Thank you very much for joining us on this Monday edition of Africa Good Morning. Please do remember that our show plays on DSTV channel 285 as well as GoTV 94 and also on our website, which is called Oneuptwo. And on that note, it's all our love, all our light, and a very beautiful Monday.
Swera Jakanaka.